All right, so here's the first story that we have, and this one's going to get spicy. We got this video clip from Steven Crowder titled, "I Didn't Want to Do This." Crowder has issued a response to Jeremy Boring's response. In it, Steven Crowder releases some audio, notably, let me see if I can play this. Do we have the audio properly set up?
Yep.
Here we go. We'll play the beginning.
They don't get deals that...
They can be wage slaves for a little bit, come over and make a salary and grow their brand. They can be wage slaves for a little bit. They can be wage slaves for a little bit.
God bless the talk boy. Those things are worth like $5,000 now. It's an expensive gag.
That is kind of crazy. I didn't realize they were so expensive.
Yeah, one of those.
All right.
Before YouTube, that was how I used to do it.
This is a tough one. Steven's not here to defend himself, but Candace is here to give her perspective on this. So I'll just throw it to you and give me your thoughts on his response and what happened with the Daily Wire, because I know you got a lot to say.
I do have a lot to say about this because obviously the situation impacted me and it impacted all of the other hosts on the Daily Wire. So first and foremost, I feel like I just want to say this, which is that I have never once, I've been with Daily Wire 2 to 3 years now, you have never once heard me come out to defend the Daily Wire on anything. This is not the first time the Daily Wire has been in a firestorm or had some beef that has gone on, whether it's for Ben or Matt or Michael, that's gone on in the last 3 years. I tend to stay very much in my lane. As I mentioned before, I'm not an employee of the Daily Wire. I'm not required to come out and defend them. And I'm usually just not interested in these beefs that seem to be so fickle. They last for a day and then they go away. And it's probably the reason why, for whatever, doesn't really matter what anybody thinks about me, I have a good relationship with pretty much everybody. Like, there's no one that I can't be invited and be in the same room with. Everybody sort of hates each other, but Alex Jones has a good opinion of me. Everyone from Alex Jones to Ben Shapiro to Paul Joseph Watson, Mike Cernovich is somebody that I call and ask for advice from time to time, Jack Posobiec. Like, I'm a kind of person that judges people based on how they treat people, right? I'm not interested in dabbling in this nonsense from time to time that appears and then goes away and ebbs and flows. This situation, though, was different because basically Steven Crowder decided to launch a war and didn't really care who got hit, with the shrapnel, right? He comes out, he makes this glorious video, which it's shocking to me that people cannot see the amount of acting that is going into this. We all understand he was a childhood actor. I loved that show, Arthur. He was the brain. Like, he is an actor. At the end of the day, he's an actor. It's also why he's so entertaining when it comes to politics. He's a talented person, but that people cannot discern the amount of acting that has gone on in this is stunning to me. I don't know where people's discernment, what's gone on with discernment, where you can't just spiritually discern that this feels a little weird, right? You're recording conversations with someone that you have told us you are friends with forever. Oh, and by the way, at the end of you saying that you're just trying to do the right thing, you're also saying, I'm going to launch my own thing, right? So just when I first saw the first video that he dropped, obviously I'm not privy to negotiations that happened at the Daily Wire. I had no idea they were negotiating with Steven Crowder. Again, not my business. I came into work one day, suddenly Brett Cooper was there. Not my business. I don't know who they're hiring. I don't own the company, right? But what I started getting was after I had dropped my podcast, in the comment section, everyone was basically tearing me apart, being like, blink twice if you need help, for saying like I'm a hostage situation, or saying, well, if you don't say anything about Steven Crowder, you're a fraud, just like suddenly you're a fraud. So I go and I watch this video, and just like everybody else watching it live, his first video, your instincts are like, whoa, he's throwing some bombs. He's calling it big con. He's saying essentially that we are enslaved by these contract terms. He actually uses the term enslavement. If you don't want to be a slave, maybe you'll come work with me. I'm going to figure it out for all of us. Like, you're a hero, you're a martyr. And because I was getting so many comments, the first thing I did was that I messaged my EP and I said, we have to cover this tomorrow on the show, because now everyone thinks I'm a fraud and they think that I've signed with fraudulent terms or slave-like terms. And that's so totally unfair to me. So my interest in this is that it hit me and it hit everybody else at the Daily Wire, and it was unfair.
Do you, I don't know, you don't have to answer this, I guess, but do you have a similar contract?
There are certain terms that I recognize. That's why I immediately knew it was Daily Wire. So, for example, the fee reduction if you miss a day of work, right? Like, if you miss a day of work, we are paying for X amount of episodes, and this is a steep amount if you miss one day of work. When you first see that, when I first received a contract from a Daily Wire, I went, that's a shocking number to see. Then you have to calculate, and by the way, mine was not this. I want to be very clear. I don't have a $50 million contract. If there's anything I should be upset about, it's that they were going to pay that much to Steven Crowder, right?
Not you.
I need to go renegotiate my contract. But so you see it, and it's shocking, and then you read under, which is what he did not include when he says, so if I get hit by a car, like, I'm just going to $100,000 a day. He didn't tell you how much he made. You don't know what $100,000 means unless you can see what were they offering him. And you can calculate yourselves, okay, so what they're basically saying is that we're paying you $63,000 a day. You know what I'm saying? He purposely like excluded right beneath it that says that actually it's pro rata if in event of an emergency. That's a very insignificant thing that would allow people not to be enraged at seeing this.
Yeah, just to clarify, when Jeremy released his video, he showed the additional portion that said in the event of temporary disability, they prorate you, there's no penalty. And then we talked about this last night. I said the $100,000 seems punitive. I think you mentioned, yeah, but what about Daily Wire's costs? I said, oh yeah, fair point.
DC Drano did, and that is exactly right. Yeah. They have all of these contracts that exist. It's very easy to understand. We're paying you, here's this $100,000. We're paying you $63,000 for the content. They also have a bunch of contracts, everybody that's working on the show. So for example, my EP, she's contracted. I don't know what her contract says, but maybe it says that no matter what, she is guaranteed this amount of money. So if I magically call out, they still have to pay her. They still have to pay the camera guy. Maybe the advertising is punitive. If you didn't give us the content, the advertisers maybe then say, okay, Daily Wire has to pay us $5,000 if Candace doesn't read ads on that day. You don't know when you have an organization this big what everybody's contracts are. So I assume it's $60,000, and then they're baking in an extra $38,000 to cover their asses to pay everybody else that maybe showed up for work that day.
But Jeremy did say punitive. Because he said, well, you're right about the costs all around it, but he basically said one circumstance is you're choosing not to work, and one is you're unable to work.
Right.
If you're unable, we get it. We'll just prorate based on the lost day. But he also said something interesting that you could make up that day by banking it at any time.
Right. So I do that, by the way. I do that. And that's why it's so annoying. So I see these things. It's to people who don't know how this works. First and foremost, it's a term sheet. He was never given a contract. It was a term sheet. It's essentially a starting conversation. Here's what we have in mind. Everything's baked in. Some things literally don't make sense. Like in my term sheet, it said, we, whatever about, they wanted access to my Snapchat. I don't have a Snapchat. They wanted access to my Rumble. I don't have a Rumble. They don't want access. It's literally just like, here's something so we can get the conversation started. And really, the thing you need to pay attention to is like, this is the money. And then, of course, our lawyer's going to go back and say, this makes entirely no sense. This makes entirely no sense. So then you get to, personalize it, so to speak. Right? When you say, okay, well, this thing makes me nervous because, okay, what if it's not me that's sick, but my son? I have 2 kids, right? What if my son breaks his leg and I have to be, I'm not going to not leave his side. So I have to then say, I need to personalize this term sheet. And that is what the contract is then for if you come to some agreement that this is what we're going to work on, right? This is what we're going to negotiate in good faith, right? So he first and foremost lied by saying it was a contract. He lied by omission by not saying how much money so people couldn't calculate, okay, really, how punitive is that $100,000? Not that much. And you consider that there's a bunch of costs that go into producing a show and people that they may have paid, editors. In this case, he produces his own show, but editors, writers, no matter what, the Daily Wire has to receive that package and do something to it. So, and by the way, like I said, we know it's at least standard. So it's not because they're trying to hit Steven Crowder. They've given this to all of us. And your job then, if you're a big boy, right? If you can put on your big boy pants, is to go to your lawyer and to say, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. This makes no sense. Negotiate. Now, if you are a young talent that was discovered on YouTube, as I was way back in the day, who comes from no money, as I was way back in the day, this could be like unfair because I can't afford a lawyer to go through line by line of this and redline this. That is not the circumstance for Steven Crowder. He's already told us he's got so much money, he's more successful, and he doesn't need the money, blah, blah, blah. So why didn't you just hire a lawyer?
But that's what he said in the rebuttal.
Yeah.
It's not about me. It's about the Daily Wire signing new upcoming young people to these terms, and they don't have
and in that capacity, he hits Brett Cooper. Right now, he's basically who is a young upcoming talent that got signed with the Daily Wire? There's only 5 hosts of shows on the Daily Wire. I mean, so you're talking about Matt Walsh? No, he's not young upcoming talent that's just been signed. You're talking about Michael Knowles? No, he's not young upcoming. You're not talking about Candace Owens. I don't think we would say Andrew Klavan is young upcoming talent. So you're talking about Brett Cooper. That's insulting to Brett Cooper. You have no idea he's just saying shit, right? And it's not like he's reached out to us and said, "Hey, like I'm doing this for all of us." Like he reached out independently to Daily Wire hosts and been like, are you dealing with these egregious terms? No, he is doing this purely, let's not even try to make this anything but a selfish act that was to benefit Steven Crowder, who wants to launch his own network. Because, and by the way, I gotta say this is the most important part of this, and nobody is talking about this. He receives the term sheet, okay? And he thinks it's so egregious that he's got to make this video 4 months later, right? I don't know what happened in those 4 months after they started negotiating. I guess Steven Crowder woke up, new year, new me. I hate the Daily Wire, so I'm going to go after them. He thinks it's so egregious. The first thing he does is counteroffer and say, let's start talking about $140 million, okay? So if it was so outrageous, why did he go back to them and say, no, actually, we can have this conversation, but let's start talking about 140 million, right? It was only when the Daily Wire then turned that down that the term sheet became so egregious that he had to do something about it.
I'll just add real quick to everybody. Steven Crowder is coming on the show on Monday. I know he's not here to defend himself.
Did you speak to him? Because he might have recorded your conversation. So you might want to come to him about whatever the hell it is you said to him.
I mean, yeah, my view is I was kind of surprised to hear that Steven recorded the phone call with Jeremy because I don't know why you would.
Oh, by the way, it should be mentioned, that conversation, so they stopped negotiating completely, which Jeremy made clear in his video. This was over. He doesn't even know what this is coming from because this conversation stopped when Steven Crowder then came back with a counter term sheet offer of a glorious $140 million over X amount of years. And they said, we just can't do this, right? Then he sat and he stewed and he said nothing until 1 week ago. He reaches out to Jeremy and he asks him to talk on the phone. And that was 1 week ago. That is the conversation that you guys are all hearing that he is playing right now. So he plotted this. This is a plot line. He planned to then record him to go back and to make this video. If he had recorded this way back during negotiations, maybe you could say there was no plot. Why did he reach out to Jeremy exactly 1 week ago when they hadn't discussed anything pertaining to the contract and they said no and walked away last year around October, November? And then suddenly in January, he reaches out 1 week ago and says, hey, can we get on the phone? And he decides, maybe I should record this. Well, no, it's because he realized he had nowhere left to go. And his next plot in this storyline, in this terrible childhood acting that he's doing right now, was, okay, I have to do my own thing now. And so I need to drum up some drama to get everybody that I know to believe that I am a martyr for our beliefs and they should dump their subscriptions to everybody else that's part of BigCon and join the Mug Club. How can people not see? I mean, the writing is just so on the wall.
The fact that he recorded Jeremy says that he did plan.
Of course he planned.
Look, I'm not here to impugn his honor. I think you're absolutely entitled to your view, having working with the Daily Wire and everything you've seen. But it does suggest that he knew he was calling Jeremy for this reason. I think Crowder is. I don't know if I think it might be too far for me to believe that Crowder is trying to do this to pull subscribers from Daily Wire or make more money for himself, because the dude already makes a lot of money.
But he does not. He thinks that he is worthy of $140 million a year. Do you believe that Steven Crowder right now is making $140 million a year?
I bet he could.
You bet he could.
I absolutely
You bet he could. But how's he got to do that? How's he got to start that? He just had a couple of kids. How's he got to start that? You launch a war in the conservative movement and you move people away from a business that you want to model. I don't know who's modeling who. I don't know who started this first. But you basically say, I'm not them. Come with me. And that's exactly what he's doing. Call a spade a spade. Call a spade a spade, okay? This was a plot line, and that annoys me because he dragged me into this plot line, okay? He dragged us all into this plot line. He's basically saying, at one point in his video, this is what really set me off. He's like, and so you might be noticing that a lot of these people, their viewpoints are sanitized, and this is why. This contract, this is why. Essentially saying that Candace is controlled, Matt Walsh is controlled, Michael Knowles is controlled, Brett Cooper is controlled, and now we know why, guys, because I have this contract, which I've conveniently excerpted portions that could allow you to discern for yourself, but it's actually not that unreasonable as a starter conversation, which is what a term sheet is, right? And instead, I'm just going to smear all of these people that are associated with the Daily Wire, and that's why I'm pissed off. That's why I'm pissed off, because I then was fielding comments calling me a fraud because they thought that I agreed to these terms and that my voice was being controlled.
You know what I told Steven? I said, I think ideologically I understand his gripe with the contracts, and I agree with the contracts. We don't do contracts the way the Daily Wire does.
There was no contract. I just want to say that one more time.
Right. So contract, different term. Terms. I don't do terms the way the Daily Wire does. I also am, the way it's like the Joe Rogan story I often tell, that he booted me from his show twice, and I didn't get mad at him. I was like, well, I'm kind of pissed off that he booted me twice, like happened twice, and I flew out to LA, but he doesn't owe me any favors. I'm not going to rag on Joe Rogan because he didn't do me a favor. If I was on his show, it'd be really great for me. It didn't work out. I'm going to carry on with my life and my business. I've negotiated with the Daily Wire. We couldn't figure out something that worked. We're very different in that sense. And I said, well, it was nice hanging out, and let's work on stuff in the future, and we'll make awesome stuff. I told Steven, I said, I think that the Daily Wire is a massive net positive, especially with like What Is a Woman? I mean, that was a massive cultural force that got even mainstream, like moderate lefty types to be like, oh yeah, I've seen that, and start this conversation. Then you did the BLM documentary, of course, that had, I don't think it was nearly as big as What Is a Woman, but it certainly had a cultural response. These things are tremendous. And so my attitude is like, look, I don't like the contracts of, like, they're very business-like, the very entertainment industry. I understand that that Daily Wire does it. If someone came to me and said, we're going to get investors, we're going to get some prominent conservative voices, and we're going to launch a company that rivals Disney, I'd be like, man, I don't like Disney. And they'll go, yeah, but it will be America-loving, independently minded, meritocratic. I'll say, oh, I'll take that over Disney any day. And then I'll go and do my thing that I think should be the way I want it to be. And I'm not going to be mad at the Daily Wire for the Daily Wire doing a thing. Like,
yeah, Bill, what you're describing first and foremost are the free markets, right? If you don't like it somewhere, leave. I thought we were conservatives. I thought that's what we were trying to preserve, right? A free market mentality. If Daily Wire is so awful, right, and so predatory and treating their talent so horrifically, they'd have no talent, right? Then literally, Steven Crowder wouldn't have to launch a war. He just have to launch an alternative business with better contracts, and people would leave willingly. They would say, "There's more money there. There's better treatment. I'm leaving." That's how the free markets work, right? Because he did not feel, maybe he's feeling a little insecure. He thought that he was a free agent. He feels like he's Tom Brady. Everyone's going to make me all these offers. And he felt like it came in extremely low. Tom Brady. I'm Tom Brady. Why am I getting offered $50 million? I should be offered $140 million. And the team says, no, thank you, Tom Brady. And then he goes, well, I'm effing Tom Brady. Well, the truth is, like, I think Steven Crowder was feeling insecure. I think he was reeling after those negotiations. I think there are very few conservative networks that can offer him that money. He's actually, he's burned a few bridges, right? Fox News, he's burned a bridge. He's burned a bridge with the Blaze. How many other companies in the conservative movement does he think can reasonably afford to pay him what he thinks he's worth, right? The Daily Wire. So when he was done, I think that he was feeling tremendously insecure, right? When those negotiations failed in October or November, he stewed on it in November, stewed on it in December, came up in January and decided, okay, I'm going to have to launch my own outfit. I'm going to go after the Daily Wire. And his plot line included calling Jeremy Boring, catching him on we only have seen a piece of his conversation. Jeremy has already tweeted that he called him like, hey, let's catch up. And now he was like, let's talk about the kids and Christmas. They were friends. Very close friends, okay? Steven Crowder has said they were friends, not colleagues, not associates, not, like I would say me and Matt Walsh and we're associates, but friends. He called his friends to talk about Christmas and his kids and said he recorded him and then dropped that recording a week later, pretending that he was doing this to be a martyr. I just don't see how people don't realize this guy is a fundamentally bad person. Like, I don't understand how this is even a debate.
The phone call thing's rough. I mean,
who records their friends? With friends like these, who needs enemies? Who needs the left when we've got friends like these in the conservative movement? But
the other thing too is, I say this about Project Veritas. I think Veritas should release the raw when they do this stuff. Like, there's a lot of stuff that Veritas has done that's been very, very important. But I'm often like, it could quash a lot of these arguments about deceptive editing if you just say, like, we editorialized. Here's the raw footage you can see for yourself, minus private information if there's like addresses or phone numbers. In this context, I'm really not a fan of snippets being released because it's like, okay, well, what led up to that moment? Like,
when he said wage slaves, we don't know the context of. It sounds to me like he was potentially asking a question about, well, do you do this, with all your time? He's like, well, this is different. You're a big person coming in, and we don't have to put as much money behind you, so we're concerned that you're going to have an ad drop. If you're a new person, you're saying you come to Daily Wire, and by this is completely a guess. I have no idea. You're coming to Daily Wire, and you're like, hey, I want to try this thing. Can you make my name bigger? Essentially, you're saying, like, here are the wages we're going to pay you. You're going to work your ass off. You know what I mean? And you have the benefit of having the entire Daily Wire network behind you. I think he was probably trying to describe, again, I have no idea, the different mentality between getting talent like Steven Crowder and trying to get him into contract versus getting talent that's new and is looking to become a Daily Wire because they basically absorb all of the benefit. Again, I don't know, but
it is exactly what he was saying.
That's probably what he was saying.
Yeah,
and now he excerpted wage slaves as if he was these slaves that are working for me. I mean, it's a colloquialism. You know what I mean? He's using that term not seriously, but it allows him to play that excerpt and make it sound like this is how the Daily Wire treats their employees. I mean, it's just horrible stuff that he's doing with Daily Wire.
Jeremy was saying that if a new person with no audience comes to Daily Wire, they're basically going to put them on a contract with a wage, and then they're going to own all the content that they say they're going to own. And then when the person's done off the contract, they can go continue to be famous and successful, although Daily Wire will still own the stuff that they paid for to get produced while that person was there. And he used the term wage slave. Now, I'm with you. I don't think the words themselves are that big of a deal.
No, but he wants it to come across like a big idea, like it's a very big deal because he's relying on business ignorance. He keeps doing this. He keeps relying on business ignorance, and he's appealing. And this is literally a socialist tactic. He's appealing to the Amazon employees who want to stick it to the man, and then they boycott and they picket because they're not getting paid $50,000 an hour and being treated to ice cream once a week. He's appealing to people that he's like, okay, think of yourself as an employee, not as a business person, right? This is a business this person mindset? This is what I get from this conversation. And obviously, I'm privy to these talks with Jeremy and Caleb. This is who I negotiate my contracts with. And there have literally been times, because I'm a big girl, and I go and I sit with them where I say, there's no way I'm signing this line, you know? They move an inch this way, I move an inch that way. They move an inch this way, you know, and then here we are. We meet here in the middle where we all feel like this is a good contract and nobody's a slave, right? Because in order to sign a contract, if you fully comprehend it, you're not a slave. You're just not a slave.
Something I think about Jeremy personally, and not too relevant, but I think he enjoys negotiating.
I think
so.
He's a shrewd
If you want to
businessman.
work with Daily Wire, you got to know that going into it. Jeremy enjoys negotiating.
Yeah.
I want to read a super chat real quick because this is an important point. IDG says Daily Wire's agenda: make profit. Crowder's agenda: saving American experiment. Exhibit: JBP deletes tweet supporting Crowder. Exhibit B, your poll. I'll tell you what I think. I don't completely disagree with that. I think the Daily Wire is a machine. I think the Daily Wire is a machine that is not the ideological like system that I would personally build. We do things very differently here. The people who are here are on salary with no terms. Like if Pop Culture Crisis got banned
This
from
is a small company. That's how it is when you work for me. I have a company too, a small company where we have 7 employees, and it's familial. You see, Savannah's downstairs. We get to hang out and do fun things as we're a small company. If we grew and we suddenly had 400 employees, things have to get a lot more serious and professional.
That's true, but and I've talked to Jeremy a lot about this, and so it may just be we're small, and then he's like, when you get bigger, man, you're going to run into these things, and I'm like, maybe, but here's my thing. I like the Daily Wire. I think the Daily Wire is. I think Jeremy and everybody else involved, and Jeremy's the one who made the video, are seeking to make money and use that money and build more and make more money. If the Daily Wire succeeds and makes money and then makes more movies and makes more documentaries, that means we're going to get more What Is a Woman? It means we're going to get more, Gina Carano's. It means Hollywood will be weakened. It means as Hollywood falls from the hill, a machine that actually, at least to some degree, shares our values will be there. It may be, in your opinion, a cold, faceless machine, but at least the cold, faceless machine is saying meritocracy. I'll be like, okay, well.
Well, LOL to anyone who thinks that Steven Crowder is not doing this to make money. Like, I mean, I just have to outwardly laugh. He's the person in a disguise. He's a wolf in sheep's clothing, right? He's like, I'm here because I care about all of you. That's why I'm recording my friend and doing this crappy thing where I literally could have just said, no, I don't like those terms, and then said to everybody, I'm starting my own outfit. Fair. You walk away all the time. You have I have walked away. I had an offer from the Blaze. It didn't work for me. You know what I mean? I don't need to piece apart the contract. I love those guys. I think Tyler is amazing. This is what I'm saying. People need to stop thinking that he is some knight in shining armor. He's not. He's not a knight in shining armor. And if you can't see that, watch this video because I think his acting is never more apparent. Even the titles. I didn't want to do this. Oh, really? Then why the hell did you record him? What were you doing that for? Did you think you were going to go to court?
Fair point.
Did you think you were going to go to court? Because that's the only reason you record someone. You'd be like, I don't trust my ex-fucking wife. Pardon my language, okay? I don't trust my ex-wife, so I'm going to record this phone call for safety, right? You record it because you're nervous that there's going to be a court hearing or the police are going to find out and you've got to back up what you said, okay? Why are you recording your friend? If not because you think it's going to go to court. Oh, because you think it's going to go to public and you're doing it intentionally because you know you're about to start a war. People, please use your common sense. It's not even because I work for Daily Wire. It is because he personally he's lying and he insulted me and during his lying campaign. He's still lying. He even said something in this video where he's like, now they're sending out their... No. You took... If you're going to aim and you're going to hit somebody with shrapnel and it's going to be me, you better aim correctly because I don't like shit like this, okay? I have been quiet. I know Steven Crowder treats people like absolute trash. It's a known thing in the conservative movement. Ask anybody that works at the Blaze. Any person who's ever had a show on the Blaze, how Steven Crowder treats people. By the way, you want to talk about contract negotiations? Why doesn't somebody reach out to Not Gay Jared, right? Who used to be with Steven Crowder and figure out why he can't speak. Why doesn't Steven Crowder release Not Gay Jared from his NDA? I don't like shit like this. Is all I'm saying. I don't like it.
I want both Daily Wire and Crowder to succeed.
We should do a movie.
This is what we all wanted. Who cares?
I want to do a buddy cop movie. Yeah, something like Lethal Weapon, man. Me and Steve. It's going to be crazy.
Luke's sitting here. I don't know what he's doing, man.
It's just bad business. It's
I'm
just
like,
bad
this
business.
is like, well, WWE.
Let me explain. I think
I personally just, I personally don't care, to be honest.
I want to try and
I want to talk about the globalists.
We will.
And how taxation.
He's like, I've got my notes.
I want to talk about
how we'll get into that
taxation's theft, politicians are criminals.
All right, but let's do drama first.
Well, real quick.
I think that what happened, Steve. Well, first of all, why was he recording? I think that's fair question, but doesn't need to be answered. In Texas, it's legal to record. It's a one-party consent state. So it's like saying, why is he open carrying a gun? Because he's planning to shoot someone. Like, you don't know why he's got a gun. Right. You don't know why he's recording, and it really doesn't matter.
But recording is the action. Like, if he had a tape recorder when he made the phone call and didn't record, I'd say that argument is comparable, right?
For all I know, everyone in Texas is recording every conversation at every moment, and they have a right to do that, and maybe even a responsibility at this stage of reality. I don't know. Things you say can be taken out of context if you don't have the protection for yourself. Secondly, I think what Steven said in this video that we're probably not going to watch all the way through, it's pretty long, or 20 minutes, 18 minutes, is that he's not concerned about the money, but I agree with you, Candace. He did say, I can't do 50 million, I need 140, 30 million. Something about, he said about 30 million a year is what he was looking for. Jeremy said that, I think, 30 million.
And then Crowder said he
counter-offered.
Yeah.
He's like, I didn't decide about the money. So why'd you counter-offer before you decided the terms weren't available?
So after they realized the money, that's not an option, we can't do 140, Steven said, then you got to take these demonetization negative penalties out from, like, if I violate YouTube's terms, because now you're an arm of big tech because you're making me follow YouTube's terms of service. You're basically a lapdog for YouTube.
But Crowder follows their terms of service too.
We all do. That's the whole point. The first time I was on this show, it was during COVID crazy, if I remember correctly, and you said, I know you have a stance on vaccines. Let's wait until we get onto behind the paywall.
Let's
be responsible.
Let's not get banned.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the 99 things we can, and then the other stuff we can put on timcast.com so that we can slide the conversation.
Oh, you're shilling for big tech. You're part of Big Con now. You're all a part of Big Con because you're being smart and you don't want to get banned until we have a comparable platform to go to. Listen, in a perfect world, we would all wish that we could do. I invest all of my time in trying to support companies, and sometimes they fail and it sucks. You know what I mean? Like, I really believed in glorified banking. It crashed, I really believed in the freedom phone. That didn't work out. We all want an alternative, and we meaningfully want an alternative. We just don't have them. We're not there yet as a conservative movement. So while we're not there yet, we're just all going to just shoot ourselves in the foot and be nowhere to prove that we were a real one, right? Oh, it shows that you're a gangster because you got shot in your chest 9 times.
Yeah,
if you don't get shot in your chest 9 times, you're not a real gangster.
Like, a real effective
stupid
fighter against that is to use the momentum of Silicon Valley against itself, or it for your favor, like jujitsu it. I don't think pushing back is the right use of energy. It requires too much. So you want to use these platforms to, 1, get the word out about new platforms, and 2, as hosting.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.